Alright, now we're going to continue to the next movie, which is The Matrix, but it's going to cover the first movie. So, this is a movie review by a man named Jack Smith. Alright. Care must be taken when describing and decoding the information for the uninformed that is coming from within the matrix by way of the communication. The uninformed cannot be told about the matrix, they must experience it. The communication rightly explains to them that the matrix is the world pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. It makes you a slave, a prison for your mind. If you attempt to expose the uninformed to too much light, you will blind them. The communication is the story of the gospel of the scripture, but it is set within the framework of a Greek science fiction drama. The leading character is named Neo. He is played by Keanu Reeves. The word Neo in Greek means new. Neo is the new man or the new Adam come to save the people of Zion. But first, he must die and be resurrected by the Trinity. Once resurrected, he will save the world by taking people out of the matrix and into the land of Zion. The problem is that in the beginning, Neo does not know who he is or where he is. He first must be brought out of the land of the matrix and learn who he is. He is extracted by a team of Zionists led by their leader, Morpheus, who is played by Lawrence Fishburne. The woman Trinity, played by Carrie-Anne Moss, is the principal person from the Zion group that communicates with people in the matrix. Together, Morpheus represents God the Father, Trinity represents God the Holy Spirit, who breathes life back into Neo and brings the message to the matrix, and Neo represents God the Son. Their team of helpers is called the People of Zion. They consult the oracle, which represents the Holy Scripture. The oracle does not judge good from evil, but is a guide to show the path upon which the people of Zion must go. The people of Zion use a vessel named Nebuchadnezzar as a means of travel within the matrix. Allied against the Zionists is the matrix. The matrix is the world which has deceived all the people therein to fall into a dreamlike sleep. In this condition, the people are warehoused in large storage facilities. The people are physically hooked up to the cells in this warehouse by tubes that both feed them and extract electrical and heat energy from them to run the machines of the world who have taken over control. The tubes also feed the people in the matrix computer-generated thoughts programmed into matrix computers. Therefore, life in the matrix is nothing more than an incredibly complex computer program created by the matrix to conceal the real intent of raising and harvesting human beings to provide electrical energy to run the machines which control the matrix. These electronic thoughts fed to the people in the matrix create a substitute for real thinking and real thoughts and real experience. Instead, the people in the matrix only believe that they are alive and experiencing their lives. Their bodies never physically leave the cells in which they are kept, but to their minds, they appear to be living a normal existence with a job, personal relationships, hobbies, and the like. In the matrix, everyone is united, as in AI, artificial intelligence. Your world is a computer program that appears real to you. There is a group that works for the Matrix called the Agents. These agents are not real people, but sentient computer programs which give the agents supernatural powers. Their job is to locate and destroy people who have either physically disconnected from the Matrix or who are within the Matrix but are receiving unauthorized communications from people outside the Matrix. The name of the leading agent is Smith, who represents Satan, a totally evil entity out to destroy any living being who would attempt to physically leave the Matrix. All communications with people within the Matrix are done through the Matrix computers. The communication can be made by way of a phone connection or modem connection to the Matrix computer, which in turn communicates with the person in the Matrix over the direct computer link to the person's mind. Once a person is physically removed from the matrix, that person never again physically goes into the matrix, but is mentally projected into the matrix computer. Before Neo comes out of the Matrix and learns who he is, Neo is captured by the agents and taken to an interrogation. Agent Smith says, "Okay, Mr. Anderson, I see a man sitting before me who has 2 lives, one in the law forum of the Matrix and one in the law forum of Zion. Your first life is as a man named Thomas A. Anderson. In this life, you have a social security number, you pay your taxes, you work as a computer programmer for a software development company. Your second life is as a man named Neo. Neo has committed almost every computer crime in the book, in our law forum. Only one of these lives has a future. Which life is that going to be?" The leader of the resistance movement is named Morpheus. This, like Neo, is also a Greek name. You might not be familiar with this name. I wasn't. The name means he who forms or molds. Morpheus was the Greek god of dreams. The Encyclopedia Mythica says, "He lies on an ebony bed in a dim-lit cave. He appears to humans in their dreams in the shape of man. He is responsible for shaping dreams, or giving shape to the beings which inhabit dreams. Morpheus is mentioned as the son Hypnos, the god of sleep. Morpheus is the man who, with the help of others, extracts Neo from the Matrix and leads him to resolve who he is, and how Neo can save the people from the Matrix. The name Morpheus is also a computer game by Piranha Interactive Publishing, Inc. Imagine a world where you died, but your dreams lived on. The adventure begins with you as an explorer, separated from your party, aboard the ship Herculania. In the movie, the ship's name is the Nebuchadnezzar. You are looking to resolve the legacy of your father, who has disappeared in the region 30 years earlier. You become despondent, certain of your impending death, drifting between strange and foreboding dreams. This game could well be a semi-outline for the movie Matrix. What led Neo to question his life in the Matrix? At one time, Morpheus asks him, "You don't like the idea of not being in control of your own life, do you?" And Neo answers in the affirmative. Neo's name is also an anagram for the One, or the Savior. In a discussion with Agent Smith, Neo was told, "Once we started thinking for you, it, the Matrix, became our world, not your world." Neo asked what would happen if you die in the Matrix. The answer is that you also die in the real world, since the body cannot live without the mind. Neo also asked what would happen if one tries to take on the agents in the Matrix. The answer is, they are all powerful in the Matrix. You cannot take them on. In this, meaning the artificial world they created without rules, place. The only way to prevail is to run from them and get out of the Matrix. That is because there are no rules or law in the Matrix. The rules and the law in the Matrix are whatever the Matrix computer programs say they are. The law is a fiction. The Matrix is run on a public policy of containment of the living beings in the Matrix, nothing more and nothing less. There are many symbols in the communication. Neo, when mentally extracted from the Matrix, is given the opportunity by the people of Zion to decide whether or not he wants to be physically extracted also. He is warned that after being physically extracted, it will be very difficult to return to the Matrix if he changes his mind. Neo is offered a blue pill to take if he wants to mentally go back into the Matrix and be mentally sedated, never again to question the Matrix. He is offered a red pill if he wants to physically come out. The red pill is symbolic of the blood of Christ, sacrificed to set man free from the things of this world. The pills are also symbolic of the story of Alice in Wonderland and the song sung by Gracie Slick, "One pill makes you larger and one pill makes you small." Neo first meets the Zionists at a meeting spot called the Adam Street Bridge. This is symbolically where Thomas A. Anderson, the first Adam in sin, crosses over into the hands of the Zionists to become the makings of the second Adam. Thomas A. Anderson, when he was still within the Matrix, was wakened by his alarm clock, which read 9:18 a.m. The number 9 stands for the fruits of the Spirit, or the coming of blessing or judgment, while 18 represents bondage, the condition Thomas A. Anderson was in. Thomas A. Anderson lives in room number 101 in a hotel named the Heart of the City during his existence in the Matrix. The heart is a metaphor for the physical life of the person or entity. It represents that Thomas A. Anderson was destined to be that life which is to come out of the matrix and give life to the people in the matrix. Room number 101 deals with the numbers 1 and 0, equals fullness of law and responsibility in teaching, and 1, which equals unity, primacy. Thomas A. Anderson is the one that will apply the natural law to defeat the law of the matrix. Trinity carries on her activities within the matrix out of room 303. Room number 303 deals with the numbers 30, which equals the blood of Christ, and 3, which equals division, perfection, and completeness. Neo's physical removal from the matrix is a birthing cycle in which the cord was cut. The birthing fluids were present, and the escape afterwards from the pod, where the birthing took place, was through a pool of water, a baptism, into a new life. There are several other washings or baptisms represented by the waters falling at the Adam Street Bridge, etc. Look up the term matrix in Black's Fourth Law Dictionary. You may be amazed. It means, in civil law, the protocol or first draft of a legal instrument from which all copies must be taken. Does this refer to the fact that all copies or all people within the matrix must follow the prime directive of the matrix to work and slave for the matrix? The definition of matrix ecclesia in Latin is a mother church. This term was anciently applied to a cathedral in relation to the other churches in the same see, or to a parochial church in relation to the chapels or minor churches attached to it or depending on it. The communication is trying to tell you that the matrix, or the world, is a mother church preaching a religion based upon an illusion and false sense of being. Did you ever get the impression that life as we know it is backwards? That what we perceive as reality is the illusion, and what we perceive as illusion is the reality? In the communication, you get the picture from both sides of the mirror, where the matrix is on the illusion side of the mirror, and Zion is on the real side of the mirror. The end of the communication is nothing short of jubilant and heroic. Neo makes a phone call to the people of the matrix. He is feeding a direct communication into their mind by way of the computer hookup. Neo tells them, "There are no rules. You can do anything that you want to. The law is done away with in their law forum. Their constitution is dead, as long as you do not harm the life, liberty, or property of another." Neo invites them to join the Zionists. As proof that there is no law in their law forum, Neo flies away into the sky as a Superman. After all, if there is no law, there is no gravity in their law forum. May the force of Zion be your calling. Matrix Reloaded, the second movie, also reviewed by Jack Smith. Think of a movie as though it were a parable. A parable is a story which parallels real-life issues, but it is told in such a manner that the average person will not understand the meaning of the story as it relates to real life. The story or parable itself discusses facts and answers, the who, what, where, and when questions. The true meaning of the parable is in the answer to the why question that most people do not ask or answer. This article is addressed to the why people. If you are one of the what people, take the blue pill and go back into your position in the matrix. Are you still in the matrix, or are you one of the people of Zion? If you answered that question by determining that you are out of the matrix and you are one of the people of Zion, then you still might have a serious problem in understanding what your relationship is to the controllers of the matrix. You are not as independent as you might think. This is the true value of the message being given in the movie The Matrix 2. The movie The Matrix 2 introduces us to a much higher concept of liberty and responsibility, and especially the concept of being at war or at peace with the system. It answers the question of, do you have a choice when you are out of the matrix? The answer is yes, but you might be surprised that the ability to have choice does not give you freedom and independence from the controllers of the matrix. In the movie The Matrix 2, we are introduced to the people who live in a city called Zion. The first movie did not describe Zion at all. It only dealt with several people from Zion that were aboard the vessel the Nebuchadnezzar. Zion is a city deep in the core of the earth, away from the matrix. It is inhabited by people who have been physically removed from the matrix. The matrix warehouses the remaining 99% of the humans in a condition similar to a coma, in which the humans are fed nutrients and the illusion of a normal life by machines run by computers. The matrix harvests the bodily heat and chemical energy from the human bodies to power the machine world. When a physical body dies in the matrix, it is removed from the matrix by the machines and ground up and fed to the remaining inhabitants as a food source. The underground city of Zion appears to be a mirror of the matrix, whereas in the matrix, the machines appear to control the humans, therein living off of their energy. In the city of Zion, the people control the machines, which serve them and keep them alive. The matrix appears to be on the surface of the earth, where humans ordinarily live and survive. The city of Zion is deep in the earth, as though it were a burial ground for the dead. The people on the surface living in the matrix are, for all intents and purposes, dead, or living in a dream or a coma, but mentally have perceived themselves to be very much alive by their mental stimulation through the matrix computers. The people in Zion are buried deep in the earth, where ordinarily the corpses are buried, but they are mentally awake and very much physically at liberty from the physical and mental constraints of the matrix's computers and warehouses. There are several interesting issues that are raised with the movie The Matrix 2. The first movie was mostly about Neo, personally. It was about him waking up from his naivety and the placing of him into a position in which he could be aware of and deal with larger issues than his own condition and future. Since the movie is only a parable to teach us, the first movie also was about waking us up to the reality of the world. Now, in the second movie, we are ready for larger issues. This is what we are getting. There are three major conversations in the movie The Matrix 2, which serve to introduce us to the more important aspects of our relationship as people who have come out of the Matrix to the issue of the Matrix still being there as a neighbor. What should be our relationship? Should we fight the Matrix? Should we destroy the Matrix? Should we be at peace with it? In the first movie, Neo was extracted from the Matrix. Who accomplished this extraction? Was it Neo himself? Was it Morpheus? Was it Trinity? No. Neo was offered a blue pill or a red pill. The red pill represents admiralty. If Neo took the blue pill, he would be put back into a condition of delusion to conform to the public policies and would have no interest in learning any of the private conditions of reality. If Neo took the red pill, it would be the blood of the Messiah, and Neo would be aware of the private things in the world as opposed to this world, and would become a servant to help others learn the truth. The red pill, Neo was told by the members of Zion, was a locator program. The purpose of Neo swallowing the red pill was to be a transponder or beacon so that his physical body could be located in the storehouse of the Matrix. It was a machine in the Matrix that was responsible for extracting Neo from the Matrix. It wasn't Neo, Morpheus, Trinity, or any other human who got Neo out of the Matrix. Since it was a machine who extracted him, why would the Matrix extract him if it wasn't a policy of the Matrix to let anyone out that wanted to be let out? The answer is simple. The Matrix only survives because adhesion to the Matrix is voluntary. Is it not possible to unvolunteer from the Matrix out of this world by expatriating the physical membership? Will the governments of this world, the Matrix, not let one expatriate voluntarily if one does so in a proper manner? The answer is yes. Likewise, the red pill can be viewed as a form of expatriation request. It appears that Neo's separation from the Matrix in a physical fashion in the first movie was not a guarantee of the fact that Neo's future would not be influenced in some manner by the Matrix. And, in fact, in the movie The Matrix 2, there is a significant interplay between the Matrix and Neo's lives, and also with those of his friends in Zion. The second movie deals with the issues of the interaction between Zion and the Matrix. Neo has a discussion with the Oracle that enlightens us as to the reason why the people of Zion and the Matrix are linked together. The following conversation takes place between Neo and the Oracle. Interspersed in this conversation, I will add some comments in parentheses. Oracle says, well, come on, it's not going to bite you. Come around here and let me have a look at you. I'm not going to bite you, sorry. Come around here and let me have a look at you. My goodness, look at you. You turned out all right, didn't you? How do you feel? You are not sleeping. We'll get to that. Why don't you come and have a sit? And in parentheses it says, an invitation to sit is a form of a commercial process called a draft. The oracle was the drawer of the draft. As such, the drawer is the debtor. The drawee, in this case, Neo, is the creditor. If the drawee does not fulfill the draft request, a dishonor occurs, and the drawee becomes the debtor. You do not want to be the debtor by dishonoring the draft. Neo responds, maybe I will stand. But in parentheses it says this is a dishonor. Oracle says, suit yourself. And in parentheses it says, acceptance of Neo's dishonor without going to war. Neo sits down voluntarily. Neo says, I felt like sitting. In parentheses, now Neo is in honor, so the conversation continues. Oracle says, I know, so let's get the obvious stuff out of the way. Neo replies, you're not human, are you? Oracle says, it's tough to get any more obvious than that. Neo says, if I had to guess, I would say you are a program from the machine world. So is he, and he's referring to the Oracle's bodyguard. Oracle says, so far so good. Neo replies, but if that is true, it can mean that you are a part of the system, another kind of control. Oracle says, keep going. Neo says, I suppose the most obvious question is, how can I trust you? The Oracle replies, bingo. It is a riddle, no doubt about it. The bad news is there is no way that you can really know if I'm here to help you or not. So it is really up to you. You have to make up your own damn mind to either accept what I'm going to tell you or reject it. In parentheses it says, isn't this the real issue with the people of Zion today in their relationship to the Matrix? The issue is, how can we trust the judge or the law enforcement officer or the lawyer or the prosecutor, etc., if they are in the public system? Then the Oracle reaches into her purse to get some candy. Candy? Neo says, do you already know if I'm going to take it? The Oracle replies, I wouldn't be much of an oracle if I didn't. Neo says, but if you already know, how can I make the choice? And the Oracle says, because you didn't come here to make the choice, you already made it. You're here to try to understand why you made the choice. I thought you would have figured that out by now. In parentheses it says, notice how the issue is going from what questions to why questions. Neo starts asking, why are you here? Oracle says, same reason. I love candy. Ha ha, little joke. Neo says, why help us? And the Oracle begins, we're all here to do what we are all here to do. I'm interested in one thing, Neo, the future. And believe me, I know the only way to get there is together. In parentheses it states, there is a parable in the New Testament. It talks about a field, which is this world, where an enemy came one night and sowed weeds in the wheat field. The wheat is the Zion people, and the weeds are the people of the Matrix. The servants asked the master whether the servants should pull out the weeds when they started growing. The master told the servants to allow the weeds and the wheat to grow together because the wheat would be destroyed by the pulling up of the weeds. This is what Neo is being told here. The people of the Matrix and the people of Zion must exist side by side for a period of time, lest the warfare between both cause both parties annihilation. Neo says, are there other programs like you? And the Oracle states, well, not like me, but look, see those birds? At some point, a program was written to govern them. A program was written to watch over the trees, the wind, sunrise, and sunset. There are programs running all over the place, ones doing their job, doing what they were meant to do. They are invisible. You'd never even know they were here. But the other ones, well, you hear about them all the time. Neo tells her, I've never heard of them. The oracle says, "Of course you have. Every time you heard someone say, 'I've seen a ghost or an angel.' Every story you have ever heard about vampires, werewolves, or aliens is the system assimilating some program that is doing something they are not supposed to be doing." "Programs hacking programs," says Neo. "Why?" Again, we have a why question. Oracle says, "They have their reasons, but usually a program chooses exile when it faces deletion." Neo asks, "Why would a program be deleted?" Oracle says, "Maybe it breaks down. Maybe a better program is created to replace it. It happens all the time. And when it does, a program can either choose to hide here or return to the source." Neo answers, "The machine mainframe." Oracle says, "Yes, where the path of the one ends. You have seen it in your dreams, haven't you? The door made of light? What happens when you go through the door?" Neo says, "I see Trinity and something happens, something bad. She starts to fall, and then I wake up." And the Oracle asks, "Do you see her die?" Neo replies, "No." And the Oracle states, "You have the sight now. You are looking at the world without time." And in parentheses it says, "Time is a commercial entity. When there is no commerce involved, time is irrelevant. In the Tom Hanks movie Castaway, when Tom Hanks was on the island, time was irrelevant. There were no commercial contracts or terms to implement in which time was a factor. Time in the Garden of Eden was also irrelevant." Neo asks, "Then why can't I see what happens?" The Oracle replies, "We cannot see past the choices we do not understand." In parentheses it says, "Because we have not yet thought it into existence." Neo says, "Are you saying that I have to choose whether Trinity lives or dies?" Oracle replies, "No, you have already made the choice. Now you have to understand it." Neo says, "No, I can't do that. I won't." In parentheses, "This is a war or a dishonor which leads to losing control over the situation." Oracle says, "You will have to." Neo asks, "Why?" Oracle says, "Because you are the one." In parentheses it says, "You are the creditor and must face it." Neo asks, "What if I can't? What happens if I fail?" Oracle says, "Then Zion will fall. Our time is up. Listen to me, Neo. You can save Zion if you reach the source, but to do that you will need the key maker." Neo asks, "The key maker?" Oracle replies, "Yes. He disappeared some time ago. We do not know what happened to him. Now he is being held prisoner by a very dangerous program, one of the oldest of us. He is called the Merovingian. He will not let him go willingly." In parentheses it says, "The character called the Merovingian is an important character in history. He is the original sovereign line of kings of northwest Europe from about 500 to 850 AD. This line of kings saved the Pope in Italy, thus becoming his master before the Pope made or broke other would-be kings, and the Merovingian successors today are part of those who believe they are the keepers of the Holy Grail and the secret leaders of the world society. Do a search on this name on the internet." Neo asks, "What does he want?" And the Oracle says, "What do all men with power want? More power. Be there at that exact time, and you will have a chance." Neo says, "I must go." And the Oracle says, "Seems like every time we meet, I have nothing but bad news. I'm sorry about that. I surely am. But for what it is worth, you have made a believer out of me. Good luck, kiddo." This conversation was incredible. It is the first of 3 conversations that link the fact that the people of Zion, or those who would free themselves from the boundaries of the physical matrix, are not at liberty to 1. Make war against the matrix and its leaders or people, or 2. Operate independently from the leaders and people of the matrix. In today's world, this is equivalent to saying, 1. Do not fight the world government system to destroy it, and 2. Do not make war against the courts, the judges, the prosecutors, the law enforcement, and the United Nations or the Federal Reserve. That system, the Matrix, is linked to you and your survival. The second conversation was even more interesting. It involved a discussion between Neo, Morpheus, Trinity, and the man called Merovingian. In the movie plot, in the attempt by Morpheus, Trinity, and Neo to bring down the Matrix by destroying the mainframe computer terminal, The location of that mainframe and the ability to get to it was why it was important to learn the location of the keymaker. He had the information they sought. Morpheus says, "We are here to speak to Merovingian." The maitre d' says, "Of course, he has been expecting you. Follow me." The Merovingian says, "Aha! Here he is at last, Neo. It is the one himself, and the legendary Morpheus, and Trinity, of course. I have heard so much. You honor me. Please, this is my wife Persephone. Something to eat? Drink? Have you seen so many contrivances as we have here? Please, for the sake of appearances." Neo says, "No, thank you." Merovingian says, "Yes, of course." Neo replies, "We don't have time." Merovingian says, "Yes, of course. Who has time? But then if we do not ever take time, how can we have time?" In parentheses it says, "Time is a commercial function of the matrix. If you take time, you are the creditor. If you do not take time, you have dishonored it, and you are its debtor." Back to the conversation. "Magnificent French wine. I love French wine." Okay, I'm not gonna reply this part. You can watch the movie. "You know why we are here? I'm a trafficker in information. I know everything I can. The question is, do you know why you are here?" Morpheus says, "We are looking for the key master." Merovingian replies, "Oh yes, this is true. The keymaker, of course. But this is not a reason. This is not a why. The keymaker himself is an answer by his very nature to a means, and not an end. And so to be looking for him is to be looking for a means to do what?" Neo says, "You know the answer to that question." Merovingian says, "But do you? You think you do, but you do not. You are here because you were sent here. You were told to come here, and then you obeyed. It is, of course, the way of all things. You see, there is only one constant, one universal. It is the only reality, causality, action, reaction, cause and effect." Morpheus says, "Everything begins with choice." And the Merovingian says, "No, wrong. Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those without." My God, okay. He sees a beautiful woman, I'll just say, and he's fawning over her. He says, "I wrote it." He means the program. I'm going to skip this part because it's a little inappropriate. So he makes this lady hot and bothered because of a dessert that he fed her. He wrote the program for it. The dessert program contained a substance that would, over time, cause her to leave the table and go to the women's room with a physical uneasiness to resolve. Beneath a poised appearance, the truth is really our complete case, out of control. Causality, there is no escape from it. We are forever slaves to it. Our only hope, our only peace, is to understand it. That is the why. To understand the why. Why is what separates us from them, you from me. Why is the only real source of power. Without it, you are powerless. And this is how you come to me. Without the why, without any power. Another link in the chain, but fear not. Since I have seen how good you are at following orders, I will tell you what to do next. Run back and give the fortune teller this message. Her time is over. Now I have some real business to attend to. Neo says, "This isn't over," which in parentheses it says is a non-acceptance of a draft order, and that equals a dishonor. Merovingian says, "Oh, yes, it is. The keymaker is mine, and I see no reason why I should give him up. No reason at all." In parentheses it says, "There was no cross-commercial consideration to the Merovingian from Neo to make a commercial agreement attractive to the Merovingian." Persephone says, "Where are you going?" Okay, and I'm not going to read that part either. Merovingian leaves. The bodyguards move to escort Trinity out. Trinity says, "Touch me, and that hand will never touch anything ever again." Trinity, Morpheus, Neo, they all leave. They get on an elevator to go to the bottom floor of the building. Neo says, "Well, that didn't go so well." And Morpheus asks him, "Are you sure the oracle didn't say anything else?" Neo replies, "Yes." Trinity asks, "Are you sure we didn't do something wrong?" Neo says, "Or didn't do something." Morpheus says, "No, what happened happened and couldn't have happened in any other way." Neo says, "How do you know?" And Morpheus replies, "We are still alive." Morpheus understands honor and acceptance. The elevator door opens on another floor as the trio is going down to reveal Persephone. She intercedes and promises to deliver what they want. Twice now, Neo has been told by entities in the Matrix that the answer to the question why is the only important issue that he needs to deal with. The Oracle told him that the what has already been decided in his life. The Oracle told him if he does not understand the why, he will not be able to see beyond the what issue that he does not know the why about. Now, Merovingian also tells him that without knowing why events occur, there is no hope to be in control. But being in control means that commercially you are a creditor. So not knowing why makes one a debtor in commercial affairs. As a debtor, one cannot be in control and cannot win, if that is what one is hoping to achieve in terms of a commercial or military democracy victory. Neo, Morpheus, and Trinity wrongly thought that the issue was choice. Doesn't Babylon tell us that we should be fighting for women's choice or rights? The Merovingian rightly told Neo that choice is an act of a debtor in reacting to the possible consequences of being the debtor. It's an illusion. A person with a mortgage on his house has a choice. He can either pay his monthly mortgage payment to the bank, or he can choose not to pay the monthly mortgage payment. He will also be subject to the duties or obligations that choice he makes saddles him with. The issue is never in achieving the ability to make a choice in life. The issue is being in control of one's options as a creditor of the commercial agreements, so that one's duties are established by one's own desire to voluntarily serve your fellow man instead of being a slave to your fellow man. Neo finally gets the information from the key makers so that he can reach the mainframe computer to shut it down and save this world. When he arrives at the room outside the mainframe shut-off switch, he meets another character in the Matrix called the Architect. The third quotation from the second movie follows between the Architect and Neo. It is the most revealing of all the discussions. The Architect says, "Hello, Neo." Neo replies, "Who are you?" And the Architect says, "I am the Architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you. You have many questions. And though the process has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably human. Ergo, some of my answers you will understand, and some you will not. Accordingly, while your first question may be the most pertinent, it is also the most irrelevant." Neo asks, "Why am I here?" In parentheses, notice how Neo has learned to ask the important why questions now. The Architect says, Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent in the programming of the Matrix. You are the eventuality of an anomaly, which in spite of my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision. While it remains a burden assiduously avoided, it is not unexpected, and thus not beyond a measure of control which has led you inexorably here. In parentheses, the Matrix, like any military de facto government predicated on some continuous warfare, needs to have a protagonist and an antagonist to survive. AKA, there needs to be enemies in the Matrix system, and Neo was one of the enemies set up in the system along with the other inhabitants of Zion, to structure the system to make it possible to have continuous warfare so the system works in its de facto capacity. His rebellion is a programming anomaly. In other words, it does not appear to be the norm established for the bulk of the system. But his rebellion is not outside the ultimate control of the Matrix master programming. Why this is necessary to the de facto structure of the current Matrix design, it seems to escape the master designer as to why a de jure or de jure system would not suffice. Notice also that the architect uses sophisticated Greek-style rhetoric to attempt to confuse Neo and intimidate him so that the architect will not have to answer Neo's question. Neo asks, "You have not answered my question." And the architect says, "Quite right. Interesting. That was quicker than the others." Neo says, "Others? How many?" The architect says, "The matrix is older than you know. I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly, one rebellion in history, to the emergence of the next, in which case this is the sixth version." Neo says, "Two possible explanations. Why has no one told me, or no one knows?" And the architect replies, "Precisely. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equations." In parentheses, the architect is telling Neo that the fact that there is a matrix world with people locked into permanent slavery and warehoused in the matrix, and a world with people of Zion in a sense of freedom living below the land is planned or systemic. They exist together in a form of an uneasy harmony. Neo says, "Choice. The problem is choice." Parentheses. Again, Neo has not learned that choice does not hold the answer. You are either a creditor by cause and effect, or else you are a debtor. The architect says, "The first matrix I designed was quite naturally perfect." In parentheses, they're pondering if it was the Garden of Eden that he's referring to. "It was a work of art, flawless, sublime, in triumph equaled only by its monumental failure. The inevitability of its doom is apparent to me now as a consequence of its imperfection inherent in every human being." In parentheses it states, "The desire to be in control of one's life for gain or commerce instead of for service. This creates an ongoing warfare that brings the fall of government from a republic to a democracy, a military-controlled warfare. And so I redesigned it based on your history, to more accurately reflect the very and grotesqueries of your nature. However, I was again frustrated by failure. I have since come to understand that the answer eluded me because it required a lesser mind, or perhaps a mindless bound by the parameters of perfection." In parentheses, "a mind that does not assume good in men, but rather assumes evil in men. A mind that does not look for peace, but one that looks for continual warfare." Then the answer was stumbled upon by another, an intuitive program initially created to investigate certain aspects of the human psyche. "If I am the father of the matrix, she would undoubtedly be its mother." Neo responds, "The oracle." Architect says, "Please. As I was saying, she stumbled upon a solution whereby nearly 99% of all subjects accepted the program, the control, as long as they were given a choice, even if they were only aware of the choice at a subconscious level." In parentheses it says, aka an opportunity to presume they would elect or vote or choose in an action. While this answer functioned, it was obviously fundamentally flawed. What about the 1% of the subjects who did not receive the programming? Thus creating the otherwise contradictory systemic anomaly that, if I left unchecked, might threaten the system itself. Ergo, those that refused the program, while a minority, if unchecked, would constitute an escalating probability of disaster. Neo says, "This is about Zion." And the architect says, "You are here because Zion is about to be destroyed." In parentheses, Zion is the people who have come out of the matrix, but they have not left commerce. They still are not about service. They just want to be in control of their own lives for personal gain and profit. They call this control, choice. But choice is not control, because they have not gotten back to the natural law that says that if one chooses to fight his brother, he cannot live in freedom and liberty. It's Zion's every living inhabitant terminated, its entire existence eradicated. Neo replies, "Bullshit. In parentheses it says, "This is a non-acceptance of the information presented to Neo by draft from the architect. This is another dishonor." The architect says, denial is the most predictable of all human responses, but rest assured this will be the 6th time we have destroyed it, and we have become exceedingly efficient at it. Parentheses. Note, in the book of Daniel, there is a discussion about a dream that Nebuchadnezzar is having involving a beast. The beast represents empires established on earth. In one of the dreams, there were 6 worldly empires represented, some that were, some that are, and some that will be. Since these empires are time dependent, they are commercial empires. The 6 empires represent Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, the Medes and Persians, the Greeks, and the Romans. Each new empire was established and overthrown in history in order to perfect commerce. Each succeeding empire became more efficient in its quest for commercial profits, earnings, taxation, and control. Slaves overthrew masters, not to serve their brothers, but to themselves become the new masters. It was all about getting more of the choices for themselves, never about serving their brothers. Architect. The function of the one is now to return to the source, allowing a temporary dissemination of the code you carry, reinserting the prime program. In parentheses it says, aka, we will restart the matrix with a new history and use your DNA to perfect a more perfect or a more intelligent and masterful gene pool for the slaves. After all, better slaves create better profits. It is all about competition when you are in commerce. After which, you will be required to select from the matrix 23 individuals, 16 females and 7 males to rebuild Zion. In the notes, it says, 23 is the number of death. So the new Zion will be built again upon the premise of dead people and not living people. 7 is masculine perfection. 15 is rest. The new people will restart a new Zion or a new nemesis for the new matrix. See, the programmers of the matrix need to restart an enemy for their system to work to maintain continuous warfare. Failure to comply with the process will result in a cataclysmic system crash, killing everyone connected to the matrix, which, coupled with the extermination of Zion, will ultimately result in the extinction of the entire human race. Neo says, you won't let it happen. You can't. You need human beings to survive. In parentheses, again, Neo is fighting the system as though there is a choice that will save the day. This dishonor only shows that Neo still does not understand the why. The architect says, there are levels of survival we are prepared to accept. However, the relevant issue is whether or not you are ready to accept responsibility for the death of every human being in this world. In parentheses, note how Neo is the creditor with the capacity to maintain or destroy the whole world. This power does not rest in the hands of those who control the matrix. They are honorable. 'Tis interesting in reading your reactions. Your 5 predecessors were, by design, based on a similar predication, a contingent affirmation that was meant to create a profound attachment to the rest of your species, facilitating the function of the one. While the others experienced this in a very general way, your experience is far more specific, vis-a-vis love. In parentheses, love is an emotion that, when properly invoked, results in serving mankind and not in commercial actions that are warlike and killing your brother, such as Cain's actions in Genesis 4. So the architect is noting that Neo's rebellion or protest is significantly oriented on a different plane than the rebellion or protest of the previous 6 empires. This is an omen of things to come and possibly resolving the war in the 3rd Matrix movie. So Neo brings up Trinity, and the architect says, apropos, she entered the Matrix to save your life at the cost of her own. In parentheses, Neo had gotten Trinity to promise not to enter the Matrix. It was too dangerous for her, according to a dream where Neo had prophesied the possible death of Trinity if she entered the Matrix. Trinity chose to enter the Matrix when she had knowledge that Neo's and Morpheus's lives were in danger. Neo says, no! And the architect says, which brings me at last to the moment of truth, where the fundamental flaw is ultimately expressed, and the anomaly revealed as both beginning and end. In parentheses it states, the 1% who appear not to be in control by the Matrix are really in control of the Matrix, and carry out the process of killing the old system to restart the new system. As the Who sang, out with the old boss, in with the new, same as the old boss. The Zion people are given only choice, and this choice does not give them the capacity to do anything which would ultimately destroy the matrix. There are two doors. The door to your right, the private world, leads to the source and the salvation of Zion, where the matrix mainframe computer can be shut down. The door to your left, the public world, leads back to the matrix, to her, Trinity, and to the end of your species, where Zion will be defeated by the machines. As you adequately put it, the problem is choice. But we already know what you are going to do, don't we? Already I can see the chain of reaction, the chemical precursors that signal the onset of an emotion designed specifically to overwhelm logic and reason. It is already blinding you from the simple and obvious truth. She is going to die. In parentheses it says, but the architect has already admitted he is fallible. He has been wrong in the past. The architect continues, saying, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. Hope? It is the quintessential human delusion, simultaneously the source of your greatest strength and your greatest weakness. Neo says, if I live, you should hope that we will not meet again. And the architect says, we won't. In parentheses, Neo leaves by the left door back into the matrix to attempt to save Trinity from her certain death. Neo has no other choice but to go back into the matrix through the left door, or the door that represents the public interest. A remedy in the private world without a corresponding remedy to witness it in the public world is not a closed remedy at all. Neo was forced to leave by the public door to resolve that problem by private capacity. If Neo would have first shut down the computer by going into the private right door, he would have lost Trinity, his love, forever. It takes a double witness to resolve all charges or claims. Merely resolving the charge or claim on the private side without a public witness is not a victory. It takes two or more witnesses to prove a thing. One witness is on the public side, one witness is on the private side. Patriots that try to resolve an issue by a private administrative procedure without getting a public witness to the same thing have not closed the accounts. Since everything is backwards in the public world, Hollywood is the true church today, telling us the truth backwards. Their movies are the sermons being taught for all to hear and see, if they have awoken up from the Matrix. The Matrix, too, is telling us that we need to learn the why, and we must not destroy the Matrix until it's time. The programs, the officials in this world government, are there to tell us the truth and help us in our freedom and survival. If we go to war against them, we just might not survive. Isn't the one world government today tracking terrorists? And it says that in quotation marks. Aren't terrorists another name for those who fight the leaders of the Matrix? Go in peace, my brothers. And I will do another video separately on the third movie, Matrix Revolution. This one is actually a very long movie review, and it's like actually incredible. I actually like the third movie's explanation about it so much. I feel like it actually even made me understand the real movie a lot better. So with that, I hope you really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. And thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.